Welcome, Nixie. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I've been looking forward to our conversation because this is the first of its kind that we are having in the group here. And I'm so excited to talk to you about the triple goddess and empowering matrescence. Wow. We are going to get into the topic very quickly, but why don't we start with who Nixie is? Tell us, what is your story?
So I'm an author, a writer, and a way shower for soul-centered women, and I'm empowering them in their motherhood. Now, the reason that I've chosen this goes way back. So I've always been connected to my soul side. I was drawn to crystals from a very young age. I've always been on that woo-woo, witchy, spiritual sort of spectrum, and I now live very close to Stonehenge. In fact, me and my toddler, when he is feeling 100%, will walk up to Stonehenge and back. So we're very close. As a young child, I remember the Band-Aid, the original Band-Aid, the one of the 80s, not the one of the 2000s, showing my age. And I remember seeing the mums and the babies on telly at that news time, thinking, I don't understand. Why are the big people not doing anything? Why are the adults not doing anything? Why are these mums so... I could see and feel the pain, and I could just see these babies just not with the same spark that I saw here in England in their eyes, not that excitement to be exploring. And I set out then that I was gonna change the world. I was gonna make every mum and baby happy, and like you do as children, you have this idea, and I was gonna do it by doing everything that I loved, which was the writing and the drawing and traveling around the world and just making a difference. Then he made I have my toddler with me. He made a squeak. I was just checking he was okay. Then, as happens, when you start being asked what you're going to do, what you're going to be when you grow up, I was kind of patted on the head, and it was, okay, that's lovely. What you're really going to be. And then I had my oldest son as a teenage mum, as a legal teenage mum, but a young teenage mum. And he was starved of oxygen. So that kind of then limited what I was going to do. I became a carer for him. He has very complex needs. He now has an amazing team and has 24-hour care, and has a care package in his own home, and it's lovely because now I can be mum and not carer. But that changed. I went to art college, and when I finished art college, I just went into hospitality. One, it was what I knew, that was my family had been within that, and it was something that I found easy to. It wasn't something I had to think about, if you see what I mean. Because by far is it an easy career or an easy trade? It's long hours, hard work, but it was something that I could do without having to really think or be involved in any heart or soul way, and could focus on my son. I kind of just then got caught up in it and just carried on. I met someone through it and ended up in a domestic violence situation for 16 years. It wasn't so much a physically violent situation, it was more an emotional, a financial, a spiritual. So it was much harder to have picked up, and something that I still am healing in energetically from, for the guilt of not realizing or of allowing it to, which is, I think, a lot of domestic violence survivors carry that. And then I asked him to leave. I had my own pub, and I found my way back. I'd moved up from the coast in England, not that far, about 45 minutes up to Stonehenge. And I found a tribe where I finally fitted in, because I'd always been like the odd one, oh, yeah, don't worry, she's just a bit odd, or she's a bit weird, you get used to her sort of thing. She's harmless, but yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, she might tell you something that you have no idea how she knows, or she'll be like, or she might like say, oh, she's just seen somebody that wasn't there, but to me was there. And it was wonderful to finally find a tribe that really vibed, really understood me, didn't question me. And I was really struggling. And one night I was in the courtyard of the pub, and it was a full moon. And I really remember just looking up at the moon and almost primally howling and releasing tears, and just realizing and understanding that I needed to come back to me. And that was my journey back. That's when I began not having to hide who I was, because for 16 years that side of me had made my partner be fearful, and therefore had become caged, and it was the essence of me. My crystals had become either ornaments or hidden away, as have some of my books and my diaries from when I was younger. And I just went, 2 minutes.
This is real time, people. This happens.
Real time.
It's real time.
That just proves that the privacy button doesn't work on the intercom. I live in a block of flats, and that was it's probably a delivery. So thank you. Our postal, obviously, at the moment, it's all left outside. It's not put through. So I've lost my train of thought. Yeah. So I went back upstairs, found my crystals, and I held in my hand a rose quartz, which is a really, really healing, heart healing, gentle motherhood stone. And that's when I began my journey back to working with the moon, to tuning into the triple goddess. And then fast forward a few years, and I, now in my early 40s, found out I was expecting my little moon, my toddler tornado, something that I'd been longing for a long, long, long time, and didn't believe was gonna happen. And I decided that I wasn't going to go back to hospitality and do 48 to 70 hours a week. I was going to follow my dreams of when I was younger and truly enter into that power of my true self, of being that way shower and holding the hands of mothers. Because when I became a mother, I didn't find that support, especially for soul-centered mums. It was very patriarchal, very masculine, very a step away of that true feminine energy. And there wasn't that tribal support, that community that there is now in what I'm creating, that we had in our ancestors. And even 2 or 3 generations ago, our parents had that in their community that they lived in villages, or even in towns, had their own communities. We don't now. And this sort of past year has really kind of brought that home a lot, I think, to everybody. So I retrained, and I trained as a baby massage, yoga, mother and baby well-being, and worked on my spiritual journey, and discovered this matrescence that I never knew was there, and of the process of becoming a mother, which is as important as that adolescence. It's exactly the same. It's from conception, almost preconception, through to when your child is 7 or 8, and it's when you're re-finding your identity. So many women, their identity is shattered and blast into a million pieces when they become mother, because before there was woman but no mother, and now there's mother. And so you're birthing not just baby, you're birthing mother. And it just, nobody told me that. And everybody I spoke to, nobody told them that. It's something they discovered afterwards. So I wanted to make that they're a community, a hub, and somewhere that I could help soul-centered women to connect, one, to their feminine energies, their divine feminine energies, and balancing that with that divine masculine rather than that corrupt masculine that society, especially Western societies, seem to be stuck in. And also to feel like they've got somewhere that just held space for them rather than judged or told or criticized, which I feel that too many mums experience as new mums.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a kind of a real roller coaster of my ups and downs, and minus the deep emotional parts, which can be quite overpowering. And yeah.
What a beautiful journey. What a beautiful journey. I got goosebumps when you were talking about standing out in the courtyard and looking at the moon and going back and fetching your crystals and just crying. Yeah, I got goosebumps.
It was such a primal connection, that real raw connection. You know, the moon has been a temple of worship for humankind from the moment we stood up on two legs, and probably before that, because so many animals and wildlife are in tune with it. And it was understanding those phases of the moon and how that triple goddess symbol, that maiden, mother and crone, which has a really negative attachment, but actually is the wise woman, the one that shows and guides and passes the knowledge on and shows us that death is not a sorrowful end, it's a process to the rebirthing. And then looking at how that especially for females on that maiden, and especially now because maidenhood lasts so much longer, we are women in our maidenhood now, so we've really carved who we are, and we've really carved a career and an identity and layered that story upon ourselves and allowed society to layer that you must come from that masculine energy, which is a corrupt masculine energy, to be successful, rather than that divine masculine energy that supports the divine feminine to become successful in the feminine energies. And yeah, I was just really, really shocked by how little support there was and how little they were told about that linear journey of this womanhood, maidenhood, which we enter when we've gone through the adolescence, towards the end of adolescence, and then up until we're becoming a mother, and then that massive shift in identity and not understanding who you are anymore. And so many mothers absolutely love their baby but hate motherhood because they feel stripped. Are you okay? Okay. Have you got sticky fingers? It's okay, just wipe them on mummy's blanket. She'll wash the blanket. I'll just put the blanket in the washing machine. Normally he has to, that's why he's like, I need you, because normally he has to come and wash his hands, but I'm like, you know what, today we're going with the flow. Yeah, and then that complete loss of self, where society gave you the impression that you would have baby, you would put baby under one arm, your briefcase under the other, and you'd just go back to who you were before, and you could have everything. But in reality, that's not how it is. And one, do you know what? Some women don't want to go back to how they are before, but are made to feel guilty. Other women want to go back and then are made to feel guilty because they're leaving baby. Other women, like myself, it's when they truly come home to who they are. And in fact, that is when all women should come home to when they are in that fullness of themselves, thinking of the full moon, of that Mother Earth, the being in the womb space, and that wonderful energy that is empowering for women if we are guided, if we are shown, if we are find our way. And too many don't. And there was just not the communication, even in baby groups, you know, there was like, it felt like there was a judgment. It didn't feel like there was a holding space. If you said something, someone gave you an answer, and most often it was a gadget or an advice from what was ever the current advice. And this isn't the health advice, the safety advice, you know, like this isn't about what is the safe for your kids. This is about what you as a mother and the instincts that you want to be and how you want to mother. So if you're wanting to go back to work and that fits with you and your family, or if you have to go back to work, it's about understanding your identity and processing so that you can step out of overwhelm and guilt and those shadows and fully embrace, you know. It's about connecting to our inner feminine and becoming that goddess power that we all have. It could be simply that you reconnect through meditation, aligning with the moon. Those moon phases really helps with your feminine energy, because you can understand when you should be resting, you can understand when you should be planning, when you should be being productive, when you should be building strength, rather than always caught in the doing of being a mother, and just your to-do list just gets higher and higher. You can break it down and yearly.
Yeah.
And it was just understanding that your Matrescence journey aligns with the moon and breaking it down that at certain times of the year, so that in a whole lunar year you've done everything of the aspect of the different aspects of your life, rather than in one day trying to tackle every single piece.
Everything.
And then because we do, don't we, as women, and especially whilst we've been in lockdown, when we've had to homeschool and care for babies, do all the housework, you know, some of us would have had cleaners in whilst we were at work, you know, some of us would have been just doing the domestic side of stuff at weekends because that is what served us. Others of us would be being really social and doing all the baby groups, and some of us would be, for our circumstances, much more alone. But again, that isolation is not how we were meant to be. It takes a tribe to raise a mother and a village to raise a baby, and we don't have that, you know. Even down to the postpartum period, I think America's even worse than the UK. Like 2 weeks, isn't it? You get to your 2 weeks, that's it, there you go, you're back to normal. In the UK, we haven't even had our checkups. We don't have our checkups till 6 to 8 weeks to see whether there's any complications after birth that we need to be caring for. You know, there's a magic 4th trimester. Babies, as humans, we're one of the only animals that cannot protect themselves when they're born because of standing on our feet and the size of our pelvis. They have to be born for their brains to continue developing outside. And that sort of 4th trimester, so to speak, from birth to like 4 months, is still a trimester of development for your baby and development for you as a mother. And then after that, you know what, there's still so much more, because that's the beginning, when you've been caught up in that doing, and when you probably realize, actually, hang on, where did I go? And it's just understanding that it's slowing down, aligning. And every time baby has a development, you're spinning back in on yourself and learning again, and then going back out. And just, it's just reconnecting, listening into that inner voice rather than the looking outside for verification. So he's possibly fallen asleep now.
That's good.
But yeah, you will have to tell me. I'm really bad. I'm so passionate about this. I will just go off and just.
I'm sat here fascinated listening to what you say, what you have been saying, because a lot of what you have been talking about, Nixie, that's part of the culture that I come from.
Yeah.
But I'm from India, so I'm from the East, and the concepts that you're talking about were traditionally part of our culture. We are losing them now because we are getting into that whole masculine energy and achievement orientedness. We are losing it, but it is refreshing to hear someone talk about these concepts, and I'm able to appreciate how some of these concepts came into being. Yes, I don't understand them. Maybe that's not how they were passed on to us or to our current generations, but it is refreshing and it's beautiful. It was really beautiful when you said it takes a tribe to raise a mother.
Yeah, it does.
We don't talk about that kind of support in general. We as women, well, women are expected to be superhumans, and then moms are expected to be super moms, and I think it's just not fair.
No. And the thing is, as women, you're sold this empowerment that as long as you are coming from and behaving in the way that the masculine patriarchal society works, you can be successful. Show any femininity or show your feminine empowerment, and it's like you step back, and especially in motherhood, when you become a mother, you're thought of as less, but yet look back at all cultures, apart from very, very new cultures, so like the Americas, you know, like the Northern America, where it was sort of resettled in the last sort of 500 years. It's probably less than that, and maybe again Australia, where they've settled. But all ancient and all society that has grown from ancient cultures worshipped feminines, worshipped the feminine goddesses, worshipped feminine energy. Mothers were thought of as this super wonderful, gentle. They were thought of as what we are, the pillars of society and the cornerstones of the next generations. And now, if a woman goes back to work, and this is a couple, a friend of mine. They work in the same company. They met in the same company. They work in two different departments. Both had projects to come in on time before. This was 2019, so just before the pandemic. Both of them had projects to come in on time before the Christmas break. The mother's project was under budget and had everything planned and ready to go for the return. The father's project was over budget, was over time, and didn't look like it was going to be anywhere near ready for the Christmas break. They both wanted to go to their child's school play. The father was granted, because he'd been putting in all the extra hours, he'd worked really hard, yeah, you can have an hour off. The mother was refused because she'd she'd been off a couple of weeks before because the child was sick, and she'd done something else. She said all around the child, she was told she'd had so much parental leave off. She wasn't refused. She was told to rethink it because she'd had so much parental leave off. She needed to rethink it in case it was affecting her career and future potential. What?
That sounds like a threat to me.
Yeah, but it wasn't even, they didn't even look at the situation. They looked at, you're a mother, you can't be doing as good a job as you did before. Now, I'm hoping this has changed with so many mums working from home and having proved that, you know what, we juggle a million things every single day. We will see, you know, the flexibility for mothers has never been as good, you know, it's not, but it just, mums don't hold that guilt when we should be releasing that guilt and understanding it's the outside and listening to our inner voices. And that's the work I do. You know, my big dream was to have a physical crystal moon hub, an organic cafe with plain stuff in the middle, cafes around the outside, crystals, books, artwork, an outside courtyard where women could come together in women's circles, book groups for the mums, classes, you know, baby yoga, baby massage, breastfeeding, feeding, weaning, baby carrying, you know, somewhere where the health visitors could come. And so it was like a complete hub that was from the deep down soul, from card reading and working with crystal healing and Reiki, right up to the practical of feeding, carrying, and just the general health. We can't do that at the moment, so I've created that online, and I've literally just created the group for that a couple of weeks ago, last week, the Crystal Moon Hub. And from that, I also work on a deeper level in my members group. So the Crystal Moon Hub is an organic cafe online, whereas you can sign up for your groups if you want to, or you can just receive the value that's offered for free and the community. But I also work on a deeper level within the Crystal Moon Mothers, which is a membership group where we do crystal training each week, meditation, working with the moon, reading the cards. I'm really connecting back to soul-centered, deep feminine energy. And I'm just loving it. And I keep visualizing and planning this hub and the retreats that I want to have alongside of that, the family, small family festivals. But right now it's online, and that's how it is. But we need to come together, whether it be on the online space or in the physical space, when we're allowed to, when it's safe to, and empower each other as mothers and guide each other and just hold that space, so that if someone says they're feeling rubbish, you don't try to make that better, but you hold that space to allow them to know, you know, that's okay. And that you have mothers of along the journey, right from that wanting, yearning to be, right through to that teenage year and beyond, and aligning with that triple mother, that triple goddess and the moon, and that matrescence journey. The one thing that has a modern phenomenon, I cannot say that word very well, is the empty nest syndrome. And that's where mothers have never reclaimed any part of their identity. They've just put everything into being a mother and then have nothing of self left once they've done the amazing job, which I'm sure all of them have done. But you know, mothers deserve their identity. It won't be the same as women. There'll be parts that come with it. Parts will have gone for good. There'll be new parts. Parts will be all jumbled up and in different areas. But you deserve an identity. And when you fill yourself up and when you connect to your soul self, and when you come from a place of authenticity, and when you take from the table what serves you and leave the rest behind, that is when you fall in love with motherhood as much as you love your babies. So yeah, it saddens me, because, you know, the postpartum period, like you were saying, in like your culture, in the Indian culture, there was 40 days, not that long ago. But, you know, in the Western world, it's been a much less time, but there was 40 days when mothers did nothing apart from look after themselves and feed baby. And even then, if they needed sleep, often an aunt or a sister or a cousin who was at the same stage in motherhood and would take baby for them for a bit and would feed, or who was a few steps ahead so that they could have, or grandmothers, you know, there was that 40 days of you were fed, you were cleaned, your areas were cleaned, your husband and other children were fed and cleaned and cared for and looked after, and you just didn't have to do anything. And even now, I remember, and then I think it was China, and it was on the news probably this time last year, and it was used in a derogative way when the media hype was saying about the pandemic that was happening, and it was showing a grandmother breastfeeding her grandchild. But yet, surely that's actually a beautiful thing, that she can give that gift, one to her grandchild and one to her daughter, to have that space to rest. Because all of us mums, whether we've breastfed or bottle fed, know how exhausting it is, and how, especially if you have, because this was in a very rural area, so especially if you have a less rich diet or less food as a general, because you know how much it takes to feed yourself as well as a baby. And it just made me so angry that our patriarchal Western society devalues motherhood when we should be raising it up. And do you know what? They should be thanking us for this last year, because nothing would have been continuing if it wasn't for mothers. And there are fathers that have pulled their weight, I'm not saying that, but statistically, it's fallen to women and mothers.
Yeah.
To keep society going, to care for the home, care for the family, and ensure children are still receiving a basic education in whatever form that took for you, and that whatever form it took for you is the right form for you and your children. So
Nixie, I understand that that the world follows patriarchy, and there's masculine energy, and a lot of times the system is set up against women, but what a lot of women tend to do is they buy into this system.
Yeah.
Because that's how they have seen things, that's how they have experienced things. And when we talk about change, the change has to start from us instead of trying to change that outside system. So what would you tell these women who want to have a kinder life for themselves, who want to be all of these things that they should be, so that they don't buy into the system as much and can really look after themselves?
The first thing, raise each other up. Don't believe in the, I'm trying to think of a way to, don't believe in the, you are better if you devalue another woman, because we're not. That's just weakening us. So first of all, raise each other up, straighten others' crown without telling them it was even crooked in the first place. Second, find a group of women that vibe and united and you trust and that you feel comfortable with. It could be 2, 3, it could be 30. And meet regularly, online, in physical, but do what serves you, whether that be walking in nature, sitting in a coffee shop, and make sure that even if that you're at similar levels or just a few steps ahead in your motherhood journey, so that you can support each other. Or if it's a wider group and you have the older children and the younger children, ensure that you can still all come together in a way that maybe the older children can take the younger children off your hands for a few minutes, whether that's playing in the sandpit in the back garden or sitting playing a video game, and just not feel guilty when we do the things to get through, which is what I'm not feeling guilty a little bit. But it's also about connecting to your inner power. Now, to do that, it's easy to say it, but it's much more difficult. And that's why I do the moon work. It's why I do the sound bath and the meditations and the deep crystal work, because connecting back to those cycles and that feminine cycle and that natural energy, it could be as simple as that you mark the new moon and the full moon in your diary, and on those 2 days you hold a ritual that serves you and your family. And that is the biggest thing. What serves you? And just centering on that, what serves you. It's about raising each other up, finding a tribe that supports you, and being true and authentic to yourself. And that's the hardest part, I think, because we have been so conditioned and have had so many layers of stories put upon us of what is the right way to be, when it's a complete story. The right way to be is what is authentic to you. And again, that isn't dismissing medical or health advice. This is about the energetic, emotional, the bonding sort of side of things.
I think a lot of these things are passed on to their children by their parents. So, what are some of the things that women as moms can do so that they pass on the right things, the right, not in terms of judgment of right versus wrong, but what serves them onto their children?
Yeah, one of the things I think is about connection. And gratitude is a big thing. So we spend time every full moon, we have a jar. It's his gratitude jar is actually full of snail shells, twigs, leaves, pine cones. So whereas mine's full of written notes, so do it whatever age your children are, and fill that gratitude jar up through the lunar month. And then coming together and going back over what you are grateful for, because that builds a real connection. Gratitude is a big game changer for anybody who practices it, even if it's a little thank you for the food in whatever form it takes in their life. It really is, it alters the way your brain neuropaths form, and it takes them out of that negative formation and into that positive of anything is possible and I'm grateful. And just ensure that you don't have to do something every day to connect, because you connect without realizing in your day-to-day flow. But it is ensuring that you have time in that lunar month where you do come together and you review, because we do that in business. We plan and review, but we don't do that in motherhood. We don't value, we invest in business, we invest in personal development, we don't invest in motherhood. But why? It's the biggest game changer in any woman's life, and it's the most important aspect of anybody's life, because like you said, your mother is the first one that you learn your stories from. So it's just literally about connecting You know, we just really, for newborns, well, from about 8 weeks, baby massage is a great way for mums to begin that, for one for themselves and one for babies.
Okay, yeah, so connection, passing on that philosophy of connection is something really, really important. I'm just wondering if there are certain ideas from what you have talked about, can fathers pick up some of those ideas and apply it to fatherhood? Because we do talk about motherhood and the feminine energy a lot, but I think we don't discuss anything about men.
We don't, and I really focus on mothers and the feminine energy and the balance of their feminine and masculine. But fatherhood is a huge shock, because, and we talk about depression in motherhood and the, you know, postnatal depression, but fathers can get this as well, and it mostly goes undiagnosed, and it's not proven, but it's theorized that a lot of the relationship breakups because of baby is because fathers will be in a period of postnatal depression. And it is about making sure that that connection stays. So create snuggle bubbles, you know, where it's not just mother. Skin to skin is really important. Allow baby to lay on your partner's, on the father's chest as well as the mother's chest. Maybe you can do that for your wife, so that you are one getting that bonding time and that understanding and learning of your child, and your wife or your partner is getting some time where they can maybe just take care of their own needs, like have a shower or a hot cup of tea. And also, one of the things that I always say is once a week, and date night has become a bit of a cliche, hasn't it? But really, again, it's that connection, because fathers can feel like they have lost, rather than feeling they've gained a family, they feel like they've lost a friend. So whether baby interrupts you or not, children interrupt you or not, but set that time aside. And if they do, you go with the flow. And if they don't, brilliant. Do something you did before, even if it is in your home. If you used to go to concerts, put your favorite music on. Do some concert dancing in the living room. And if you used to have a takeaway on the way home, order a takeaway. If you used to go out to posh meals, cook something together. If you've never cooked before, you can learn that skill together. And I know that in the UK, some of the more posh restaurants are actually also delivering. I don't know if that's the same in the US, and I think you're probably a little bit more open than we are. We're like still have no restaurants open. And just, it's all about connection. And in motherhood, that is the biggest thing, that we disconnect, and we just don't realize, especially in those, we disconnect from ourselves when we become a mother. We don't understand that, and we feel uncertain about it. We can disconnect from our partners because we're so focused on this new baby that we have to care for, and we can disconnect from life as well. And I think that's a big thing right now, is just connection, and finding ways to create the connections and to align them with the natural energies and work with the natural energies, so that you're following the natural flows, so that you're not fighting against what you internally know is the flow and the way to go.
I'm really keen to explore a little with you about the loss of identities, or rather changing identities, that you talked about. So when somebody has a baby, they become a mother. That's a big change in their identity. And when the kids fly the nest, then they get into the empty nest syndrome. That's another loss of identity. So talk to us a little bit about that. How can people navigate some of these things?
That is the process of the matrescence. That's the matrescence. So if you think of adolescence, Matrescence is the same sort of thing. The biggest thing that changed in adolescence was our hormones, our bodies, and our beliefs. The biggest thing that changes in motherhood is your hormones, your bodies, your beliefs. Adolescence is talked about so much, and matrescence isn't. Nobody tells you in like your postnatal, your prenatal, any of the nobody says to you, actually, do you know what, you're going through a transitional period. And it's literally, one, listen to your hormones. In adolescence we blame our hormones. We can do the same in matrescence. There is massive hormonal changes. Our brains change shape. Mama brain, when you forget things, that's because the things that were important before for you to remember and do aren't now. So your brain's changed. There's like a whole neuroscience part on that. But dude, listen to your body, listen to your emotions, and try and stop getting caught up in being more than what you are authentically. Your body, I find that really hard, because I still have 3 years on, have what I consider a baby belly. But I think it's about talking and sharing and understanding that this, yes, you can feel bad about it, but yes, you did create a miracle. And to be gentle with yourself and not expect that miracle that you see portrayed in the media of bouncing back to immediately what you were before. And I think the other thing is that accepting we can only do so much, because we can't do everything. And especially now we can't. I'm a solo parent, so I can't exercise unless my little one's around or at nursery. And as for the beliefs, think how you went through in adolescence. How many bands did you change your mind off of the music that you liked? How many things did you explore before you found what fitted you? But this isn't to say that you're going to be a completely different person, because you've had the maidenhood, the womanhood experiences, and you're going to bring those essence of yourself with it. But this is a chance for you to shed the layers of the story and get down to really what is your core self. And it is literally working through it and finding, which is why I've created the hub and why I work with mums in Matrescence, is finding someone that can hold your hand, support you, lead you, and that can be the way shower of what this is, and not judge you for not being how you thought you would be, who you were before, and most definitely not how society perceives you should be.
Yeah, so it's all about coming home to ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely fallen asleep.
That's good. How can people work with you, Nixie?
So if they want to find out more, I have the Crystal Moon Hub. That is my Facebook group. That's my online organic cafe. It's very, very new. So if they'd like to come over and be a founding member, that will be brilliant. I'm finding my steps in how that is working, and going to be offering guest experts in there. There's going to be guests coming in about all different stages, and all things from meditation right the way through to the feeding, to the healing. Or you can join the membership if you're wanting to work on a deep soul level, where we align with the moon, and we work much more on healing energetic traumas, healing ancestral traumas, connecting to guides and to spirit guides, to angel guides, to our own energetic guidance, and deep down work with crystals, to not just the surface level of what many people use with crystals, but deep down into working with how they can benefit you. And that's Crystal Moon Mothers, and that's a monthly rolling membership, where there's also an online teachable area there as well, which is an online course which they can sort of work through whilst they are members. They've got access to that as well. I mean, we do weekly crystal training, so work different crystal healing, meditations, card readings, and we also hold the moon cycles and coffee mornings, and aligning with the natural energies and cycles of Mother Earth. So,
wow, yeah. That's pretty full on.
Yeah, the Crystal Moon Mothers is definitely for people that have really have access, either already spiritually curious or soul-centered, soul curious, or have had a connection that they want to develop. Because quite often soul-centered women will have hidden that within there, or have buried that until they become mothers, and then it kind of taps them on the shoulder, full pout, saying, "Hey, do you remember me?" Or ones that have been within the Crystal Moon Hub and have gone, "I want to access a bit further and explore my chakras, my meridians, my energies, my auras, my much more that sort of fifth dimensional energetic plane." So yeah, it's definitely, when you do, I think it's like blinkers come off, and it really helps you connect. But I also think that's why I've created the hub, because I want to support women on that practical and deep soul level as well.
Wow, that sounds beautiful.
Thank you.
Nixie, before we let you go, tell us, what one big message would you like to share with anyone who is on this journey?
The biggest message: believe in yourself. When you want or need something, you have a voice. Don't let others quieten it, because especially if it's coming from inside, and cultivate an inner voice of kindness. You know, our inner voices can be very, very critical, but in motherhood, we need to cultivate an inner voice of kindness.
Yeah. So true. We can be too hard on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nixie, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for being here, and we did it without
yes.
That's just, well, it's just authentic, isn't it?
Yes,
it's how it goes. But yeah, he's okay. He's just had a bit of a tough week, and I think it's a little bit more scary for us mums, isn't it, when they're not well in the current climate of what's happening in the world. It's always that trigger of panic, of moments of panic before you breathe and go, actually, it's okay.
Yeah, but we did it.
We did.
Thank you so much, Nixie. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.